Hello everyone, just want to do another bonus topic today. In this case, we're going to be going over Fine Motion, which is the banner character for tomorrow, and we're going to be going quite theoretical. This is more of a look at the character through the lens of simulator, plus comparing to current UMAs that we have, and trying to get the overall viability. Overall, she is viable, so there's nothing particularly wrong with the character, so if she is your Oshi, certainly pull for her. If you have the carrots, remember 30,000 carrots and make sure your pull plan isn't completely hurt by it. There is a selector ticket coming up that you can purchase for $20. If she is your Oshi and you have not settled your account yet for your SSRs, I highly suggest waiting until that moment and choosing her on that first anniversary ticket. Okay, so let's begin. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. Her aptitudes are going to be turf, mile, medium, and pace chaser. That's what she is meant to be run as. However, you can stretch her into long. She's actually decent in certain long places. And you can stretch her into end closer. And those are the ones that the mechanics of her career actually support. You can technically make her front and late surger. I am going to pretty much ignore that because honestly, her kit doesn't really give much towards it, but it is certainly possible with a D and an E aptitude. You just have to be an advanced player that has good parents that can get the sparks required for it while not sacrificing the distance spark. Okay? So, her stat bonuses are 15 power, 15 wit. Now, 15 power, 15 wit is actually an incredible stat bonus. One of the best in the game. Reason being, for this meta in particular with Alharu, because we are using a lot of wit cards. Mant, it's going to be a little different because Guts Maxing it will not really support, and the standard build is usually a bunch of speed cards. But for now, in this Alharu meta, for miles and medium, highly suggest running 2 wit, 3 speed, and a Rico. And for longs, you swap out one of the wit cards for a stamina bonus. The stamina card, the reason being is she has no stamina bonus, she has no speed bonus, so you're most likely running stamina sparks, and you want the card to support. She generally will need 3, or if you have a bunch of advanced cards, a bunch of good SSR cards, 2 speed cards with some speed sparks. Your wit will help with the wit cards, but it's really not as good. If you are more of a free-to-play player, we do have some budget decks. You will probably not be able to run 2 wit cards a lot of the times, but just running 3 speed cards and 2 wit cards while keeping the 35% race bonus with a Rico, that you'll definitely get by with this character. The purpose of this, and the reason why her stat bonuses are so good, is because when you have your speed cards are going to naturally have bonus power, which is usually a problem with a lot of Umas running the speed wit build because your power will only hit about 600 to 650. With her, if you do it right with sparks, you will hit around 800 to 850, which is incredible, especially when you're going end closer too. In addition, because of this, wit is usually the stat that lags behind, because if you look, you have 3 speed cards and 2 wit cards, so you have 5 cards that are all helping speed out to varying degrees, but you only have 2 cards going with wit. So with a 15% wit, if you remember from Measure of Dober, the 20% wit and 10% speed meant that a wit tap was basically doubling the amount of wit versus the speed, so that when you ran all of the speed and wit cards, you generally came out to like 1100 when you just really did the math with it. Again, with long, I suggest Maya Top Gun. I know it's a very polarizing card, but it's basically Super Creek LB2. She's a very finicky card, but I think if you do not have very good cards, and if you don't even have Kittison, you need to be gambling your runs, because in order to reach the highest level of this game, you need to be giving yourself as many chances and opportunities to high roll. So again, just these are general builds. It's going to be different based on the track you're running, but I suggest these types of builds when running her. Her ultimate fairy tale is essentially a weird mid-race to late race skill. Depending what it is, it will most likely be a mid-race skill. I'm just going to grab some water. So, increase her velocity with the excitement of running when engaged in a challenge while well positioned in the second half of the race. All that mumbo jumbo is essentially these 4 qualities on the screen, and if you successfully do it, you essentially get a triumphant pulse, which is 0.35 target speed, in 5 seconds. There's a few caveats to that, but first let's go over the triggering condition. So the second half of the race is distance rate 50 is any time past the second half or 50% of the race. So the mid-race and later, essentially. The mid-race starts here, but it'll be in the second half of the mid-race usually till the end of the race. It can proc at any time there. It will proc on the first instance where the other conditions are met. What are the other conditions? Well, if you're in the 50%, if you're in the second half of the race, you need to be in second, third, or fourth. So in this case, on this screen, if one is off the screen, second, third, or fourth is allowed. And also the final one, which is really, honestly, the most finicky one of them all, which is block side continue time, which means that there is a horse that is in essentially the same length as you, within one length of you in an adjacent lane. So if you've ever played Gold City Festival, and if you've ever played Winning Ticket, highly suggest Winning Ticket as always, you will know that this is a very finicky condition that happens mostly when gearing up on the acceleration zone. So when you're passing Umas, you generally will have someone blocking you on one side. It is possible in the mid-race to happen, however, but a lot of times it happens in the accel zone, okay? So what do you have? Once you do all this, you essentially will get a 5-second speed boost with the target speed of 0.35. The notable thing about this is we have not had a UMA with a mid-race speed skill of this quality, with the exception of Gold Chip. And if you know from running against Gold Chip, it is incredibly powerful to have a mid-race speed skill. The only other one I can think of is Narita Taishin is able with Nemesis as well to proc in the mid-race. So basically those three are the major ones that have this type of skill. However, the difference is, of course, is not only the potency, it's 0.35 over 5 seconds rather than 0.25 over 6 seconds, but also Gold Chips will always proc in the mid-race, and Fine Motions can proc at different times. It will happen at the first instance where she is blocked and in second through fourth, but that is honestly going to happen a lot of times in the mid-race and a lot of times in the accel zone. So you kind of are gambling a little bit. If it happens in the mid-race, it is an incredibly potent skill because you have a mid-race speed skill, and mid-race speed skills are the most powerful in the game in general, okay? If it procs, the golden zone essentially is right before the spurt, because then you have speed carryover, which is why Nemesis is very good on certain Nakayama tracks, because usually when it's on this corner, she'll just proc it. Sorry, not Nakayama. The one we just did, the Libra Cup as well. But when it procs properly there, you'll have some speed carryover into the acceleration zone, and you'll get a lot of value. There is technically a chance it procs on the acceleration zone after the speed carryover area, in which case it's completely useless. It will not happen very often, and if all else fails, it is possible for it to happen on the late race as well, on the final spurt. So it can be a mid-race skill, it can be a late race skill, it can be useless sometimes, and it can also be a absolutely massive speed carryover skill. The important thing about this is that this is kind of track agnostic. It doesn't care about corners, it doesn't care about straights, it just cares about the second half of the race, which means that she has a ultimate that is viable if it procs on every single racetrack in the game. Okay? Let me say that again. Her ultimate is good. It's the same viability essentially on every single racetrack in the game. Now sprints have a little bit of a problem because the final spurt's so short, so there's less chances for her to proc it. But besides that, and she's not really meant to be run sprints, her ult should work decently well. You are just gambling, just like any late surger or end closer, even though she's a pace chaser, okay? Her inherit isn't good. If you remember from Gold Chip's inherit is much worse because it goes from 0.25 to 0.05. Hers doesn't go that badly. Instead of 0.05, it's 0.15. So you lose about 60% of the skill's potency and 2 seconds of duration. It's usually not going to be worth the inherit, so she is not really the best parent in the world. She is certainly one you run if you like her ultimate, if you like her character. Alright, let's talk about her skills. So she comes with Fall Runner, prepared to pass medium corners. We'll get into this. Medium corners will be always good on mediums, of course. Fall Runner will be good when it's fall. Notably, we are in winter right now in the game. It is going to be quite a while before fall is an issue. Fall is relevant again. Notably, as I just failed to realize back in this one, if you're playing Fine Motion, you can't actually run the Fine Motion Wit card. So that is a negative if you are wanting to play her with the best cards available. She must use some other Wit card. This will be less of a problem as the game goes on, because this next year we are getting Mr. CB. We are going to get stuff like Tokai Teo Wit, stuff like no, there's Nice Nature Wit right now, but Fine Motion Wit you cannot use as Fine Motion. So I just remembered that, so please forgive me for that. All right, we're gonna go over Prepared to Pass in detail later, because that's one of her golds, and Medium Corner is good on medium, like I said. So her first major skill is Determined Descent, which is straight descent. She gets those from level 2 and level 5, and honestly, it's a troublesome skill because there's not many tracks that really use it in Champions Meeting. We'll go over the Champions Meeting viability later, but on the current Nakayama, for example, the downhill happens way too early. It will only proc on this downhill, and the acceleration zone does not go and extend all the way to the spurt. Okay, this is very common in a lot of tracks. Speedstar is kind of the same way. It's the reason why I personally don't enjoy the Fine Motion card to begin with, because I don't think Speedstar is a very good skill. I can eat my words on that when I eventually lose to Oguri Cap Christmas, but I believe that the corner is a little bit too late. So yes, it can proc at the very end and become a late race skill, but a lot of times it'll proc while in the acceleration. Not while in the acceleration zone. It's just a decent late race skill. And it's not anything special for 360 freaking skill points. It's a lot. When I could be just getting Pro Curve or Furious Feet if I'm a late surger, etc. There may not be many options now, but we're going to get more options later. So she has Speedstar. We'll go over when it's viable. A lot of times it is a little bit too late to fully matter. Right-handed is very good on this one, because this is a right-handed track. It's really as simple as that. Right-handed is the most common track type we're going to be having, so right-handed is kind of what carries the character a lot in a lot of these races. Her secret events, it's kind of a little bit weird. So you have the support Keenan. If you're building her end closer, you do get standing by. If you run her as end closer during the support Keenan, otherwise you just get bonus stats. So you technically get a little bit more by running her an end closer. If you win the support Keenan as end closer, you get an all stats rather than 4 random stats. In her senior year, you kind of can mix and match the races you want to do. I believe you can choose between these two and I believe you can choose 2 of these if I remember. I will have to look that up, but however many you're allowed to do, if you pick them as an objective, you get the specific hint for them. So essentially, like Queen Elizabeth II Cup gives you straight descent bonus points. If you were building her mile, you can run the mile CH and get updrafters. If you are just building her standard, you can get up tempo or preferred position from Arena Keenan and Tenno Show. So notably, I believe these turn off during MAT, but they will turn back on during Grand Live. So like I said, she just has a lot of decent stats. She gets a lot of, you get standing by for end closers, which is technically the good end closer, recovery, and just a lot of other pace chaser, miles, and mediums. Okay. So for CMs, we kind of talked about Nakayama. Right-handed works. The other 2, in my opinion, aren't that great, but technically Speedstar is a decent skill. The next 2 CMs after that, one of them unfortunately is Sprint. The other one unfortunately is Dirt, so she will be a stretch viable, but honestly not very good. Also, it's left-handed, I believe. Yep, one of these, they're both left-handed as well, so really, honestly, there's not really much reason to make her for it. After those 3, we'll have the Pisces Cup, which will be Hanshin 3200 meter. The problems with this one is the corner is late, not as bad as the other one because it's actually further along, which means that it'll be more of a late race skill than it will be in the acceleration zone and lose anything. And this downhill, unfortunately, is much too late to do anything. And this downhill is on the first lap, so it's not even going to do anything. So you're 50-50 for being kind of okay, but not really. It's only a little bit of acceleration and not good at all. But it is right-handed, and like I said, right-handed will carry you a little bit. So she is certainly viable in the CM. It's just two of her skills are not the greatest things in the world, and one of them, straight descent's not great at all. Aries Cup is the same problem. The downhill happens way too early. If you look at this race course, well, this is Nakayama. It's the same one we're about to be doing. So downhill early. The downhill is way too early on Nakayama, and the corner is way too late on Nakayama as well for this one. So this is just kind of a late race skill. But again, the spurt happens really, really early. Sorry, really, really close to that corner. So it is possible that it just is eaten up by the acceleration zone. However, again, it is right-handed, so congratulations. She is very good with right-handed tracks in general. Taurus Cup is unfortunately left-handed, but so right-handed doesn't work. And the corner happens a little bit early, so it happens right after the spurt. So it's like the worst timing possible, honestly. But this is the first time that straight descent works properly. So straight descent is a downhill gambling skill because the downhill happens all the way to here. If it procs late, well, then the acceleration carries all the way over into the spurt. So Taurus Cup, and yes, Taurus Cup reboot, this will be the second time we do Taurus Cup. She's actually quite good because she has a built-in acceleration skill for Pace Chaser. This is like all the way in May, so we're already 4 months ahead, but I mean, she's viable in this one. And so, in other words, for fine motion, the conclusion is that her built-in skills, honestly, a little bit troublesome. In my opinion, not the greatest. She has right-handed, though, built in. If you do not plan to run fine motion wit, she is a viable pickup. She is nothing that is a must pull, but if she's your Oshi, there is a lot of stuff you can do with just essentially right-handed and some good Pace Chaser skills. So this has been Burb. This has been the first attempt at a character guide. I know it was very rambling and all over the place. They'll get better over time, but good luck with your pulls if you decide to pull for her, or if you're waiting for her ticket, I would just probably wait for the first anniversary ticket if she's your Oshi, honestly, and save your pulls for Tomomo Cross possibly because you're getting stuff on her already, or stuff like Team Opero. But otherwise, again, everything's viable. This has been Burb, and Burb out.